Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because today we are tackling something that affects absolutely every single one of us. We're diving into the definitive analysis of the best browsers for online privacy in 2026. Now, as data brokers, advertisers, and even governments ramp up incredibly sophisticated surveillance techniques, choosing the right browser is no longer just some niche tech geek preference. It is literally the single biggest lever you have for protecting your digital footprint right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with beyond the cookie, then evaluate the top privacy browsers, figure out how to match a browser to your specific threat model, look into the multi-account privacy gap, and finally, wrap up with privacy best practices for 2026.
Section 1. Beyond the cookie, the modern tracking reality.
So for years, right, we were all told that if you just hit clear cookies or maybe pop open an incognito window, you were golden, totally hidden. Well, according to the latest research, that assumption is dangerously outdated. Actually, scratch that, it's basically a myth at this point. Modern tracking has evolved way past that, using things like behavioral analytics, TLS session tracking, and cross-device linking. Meaning, clearing your cookies on its own is practically useless.
The real threat we are up against today is called browser fingerprinting. See, you might think of your browser as just a window to look at the web, but it's actually a broadcaster. Every single time you load a web page, it's firing off dozens of unique signals. And when you combine those signals, they create this deeply personal fingerprint. This tracker follows you everywhere, totally ignoring whether you've wiped your cookies or not. So if you're using a mainstream browser on its default settings, you are essentially walking around the internet with a massive tracking beacon strapped to your back.
Now, what's really fascinating about these specific data points is how incredibly innocent they seem on their own. I mean, screen resolution, the fonts you have installed, your time zone, language settings, by themselves they mean absolutely nothing. But when a tracker takes your specific screen size, combines it with your exact audio context hashes, and, say, your device's WebGL renderer, boom, they've just created a mathematical profile that is entirely unique to you. It's an amazing piece of technology for sure, but also a little terrifying, right?
Moving on to Section 2, Top Privacy Browsers Evaluated, the 2026 Contenders. First up, we've got Brave Browser. The source analysis actually ranks this as the absolute best all-around choice for 2026. And what makes Brave so fantastic is that it just works, right out of the box. It has these built-in shields that block ads, trackers, and fingerprinting scripts by default, no extra third-party extensions needed. And instead of breaking websites by totally blocking fingerprinting, Brave does something really clever. It randomizes your data, like your canvas and audio fingerprints. Plus, because it's stopping all those heavy tracking scripts from even loading, your page load times are often literally faster than Chrome. Oh, and it even includes built-in Tor integration if you really need to step things up.
Now, if you need absolute, uncompromising anonymity, you've got to look at the Tor browser. Tor takes a totally different kind of extreme approach to fingerprinting. It uses the blend into the crowd method. Basically, every single Tor user has the exact same window size, the same fonts, the same time zone. Everybody looks identical. On top of that, it routes your traffic through a 3-hop onion routing system. That makes it nearly impossible to trace any activity back to your actual IP address. But there's a catch: speed. All that extreme routing adds some serious latency. So it's the absolute gold standard for whistleblowers or sensitive research, but man, it is going to be pretty frustrating if you're just trying to watch YouTube.
Next, let's look at the Mozilla-based contenders. Firefox is still an absolute powerhouse, especially if you love having granular control. If you're a technical tweaker, you can dive deep into the About config settings to standardize your browser attributes and set up some incredibly strict privacy rules. But let's be real, if spending hours manually tweaking hidden settings isn't exactly your idea of a fun weekend, there is LibreWolf. LibreWolf is essentially a customized version of Firefox that rips out all the telemetry and comes totally pre-hardened right out of the box. It just applies all those intense anti-fingerprinting settings instantly for you.
All right, Section 3, Matching Your Threat Model, Finding Your Perfect Fit.
So as you can tell, finding the right browser isn't a one-size-fits-all scenario. Notice how different tools serve entirely different personas in this analysis. We just talked about Brave for daily use and Tor for maximum resistance, but consider Mullvad Browser. It's highly rated here because it takes Tor's incredible fingerprint resistance but actually drops the slow Tor network, so you can pair it closely with a trusted VPN. Pretty smart. Then there's Ungoogled Chromium. It scores a bit lower on default privacy, but it is absolutely perfect for developers who need that Chrome engine compatibility without Google hoovering up all their data. Even DuckDuckGo and Safari get nods here, mainly for providing simple, out-of-the-box privacy for non-technical folks or die-hard Apple ecosystem loyalists. Ultimately, it all comes down to what exactly you need to protect.
Let's move to Section 4, the multi-account privacy gap, a hidden complication.
Let's see how this all builds, because we need to talk about a really uncomfortable truth. Think about single browser privacy versus the multi-account reality. With a single browser setup, you've got your highly configured Brave or LibreWolf, and it beautifully protects your anonymous browsing session against third-party trackers. Awesome. But then, there's the multi-account reality. The literal exact second you log into an account, whether that's Gmail, Amazon, whatever, you voluntarily attach your real identity to that session. All that fancy fingerprint randomization we talked about doesn't matter anymore. If you manage multiple accounts for a business, or maybe you run an agency, using one browser profile causes cross-contamination. Your cookies and local storage just bleed across your sessions, linking accounts that you desperately wanted to keep entirely separate. Your fingerprint basically links the whole shebang together.
So what's the fix? The solution to this gap is a technology called browser isolation. Platforms like Sendwin provide this by running every single tab in a completely sandboxed environment. What this actually means is that instead of trying to force one single browser to handle everything safely, each and every one of your accounts gets its own dedicated, unique fingerprint, its own isolated cookie storage, and even its own proxy configuration. Honestly, for professionals managing heavy multi-account workflows, this isn't just a nice-to-have feature anymore, it's an absolute requirement to stop that cross-contamination in its tracks.
And that brings us to Section 5, Privacy Best Practices 2026, Actionable Takeaways.
Okay, here's what you need to start doing today to lock down your footprint, regardless of which browser you end up choosing. Step 1. Layer your defenses. A privacy browser is a great start, but combine it with a reputable VPN and DNS over HTTPS. Step 2. Compartmentalize. Maybe use Firefox for your logged-in accounts and Brave for your general web surfing just to keep your identities completely separate. Step 3. Audit your extensions regularly. Literally every add-on is a potential attack surface. Step 4. Go into your settings and disable unnecessary APIs, things like WebRTC or Bluetooth. If you don't actively use them, turn them off. And Step 5. Automate clearing your state. Just set your browser to automatically wipe all cookies, cache, and local storage the absolute second you close the window.
So the crucial point we keep coming back to in this analysis boils down to this. While a privacy browser protects your single session, multi-account isolation protects your entire workflow. Everyday privacy browsers, they are absolutely essential as your first layer of defense. But for modern internet users who are managing multiple digital lives, the tech simply has to be taken a step further to isolate those identities completely.
I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. You might have just figured out how to brilliantly lock down your single browsing session, but what is your multi-account workflow revealing about your digital footprint right at this very moment? Are your accounts bleeding data into one another without you even realizing it? Take a hard look at your setup, consider compartmentalizing your workflow, and stay safe out there. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.